30 minutes. I don't know if we're gonna do an hour post show. That's crazy.
I cannot be left unattended.
No. It will be us peeing in the backyard, probably doing a post show off mic, and then you sleeping in front of your mic. All right, I'll be back.
We're saying tons of things that just need to be edited out.
I know. It's like, oh,
That'd be so funny for one of us to have to edit it later and find out that you're just sitting here fucking slinging slurs.
Practicing my Kobold Alex Jones.
Oh my god. They're making the I'm trying to think of a fan.
Yeah, transdimensional vampires coming, and they're stealing the essence
I'm trying to think of a fantasy creature.
of no furs. They come here from the Shadowfell. Okay? Okay, listen.
They're making the sprite.
Listen, Nick Simia. This is real. You ever wonder why diamonds are used to revivify?
Welcome to Take the Damage podcast by Unfortunate Ones. I'm Saab.
I'm Nix.
And I'm Greythorn.
And today's topic is 8. What's an 8? What do we got for an 8?
An 8 is party size.
Oh, party size. In person or like where do you want to start? In person or online?
Wherever you want to go, dog.
I should say with friends or with strangers.
Wherever you want to go, dog. Let's ride this wave. We'll get there.
I will.
Remember, we got like at least 30 minutes of talking about something, and then a fake ad, and then
So you got to get those 30 minutes in before he cuts us off.
I'm going to want to
Kills the momentum.
I'm gonna cut you up. Yeah, in person. I'm gonna say smaller the better, barring one. There's a lot of merit behind one, but I'm gonna say the smaller the better. With friends. With friends, I think 2, maybe 3. I think 2, to be honest. I really, really enjoy 2.
Yeah.
There's things you can't do. There's like levels of things and types of combat encounters that you can't do with those smaller groups, although I would argue that with larger groups as well.
Yeah, you get limited depending on what you want to do and how you want to interact with your players, like small and big sizes.
But there's so much room for role play.
Also, like depending on your friend
and
group,
investigation and
depending on your friend group, depending on people that are interested, this is a lesson that I feel like you're going to learn every time. Every time. Like we've learned this lesson so many times about party size, and yet every single time.
Oh, not huge party sizes, yes.
Yeah.
No, when we've done like 9+ people, fuck that, straight to hell.
I'm just saying that like we get excited and we get a little drunk with our friends, and like, hey, everyone gets invited.
Yeah. We go to parties and we're like, hey, everybody join our campaign, and then we got 12 people at the table, and you just can't play.
Yeah.
I would say a solid 2 or 3 active players, and then I would put on top of that an additional 2 or 3 players that are like kind of the hang back in the bleachers kind of players. They're like kind of quiet, go with the flow, minimal players. I think you can add another 2 or 3 on top of that. But as far as like actual active people that are really into D&D, people that get into the role play, people that get into the investigation, get into the combat, all of those aspects, 2 or 3. Smaller the better, in my opinion. So much more room for role play and storytelling without anybody feeling like they're taking a back seat and not participating, and then so they start playing on their phones and shit. Because the moment you get into bigger numbers,
I think I agree in that, like, if you have, at least in our time playing, with you guys, 2 or 3 really invested players.
3 does feel like a party.
Yeah, 2 or 3 really invested players is a really fucking good time. 2 is great. 2 is a good time, and you can tell most stories, and the play that you can get between the 2 players, and like the interesting things that can happen in a party is really fun. 2 is really fun.
I'm gonna say 3,
but 3 gives you that extra little bit of like one character can kind of go off and do a thing, and two players can then interact with what that one player like. There's a lot more space for like the dynamics.
There's a
like,
party. All of a sudden, there's a party. When there's
Yeah.
2 people, it's not a party; it's a duo. 3 people, it becomes a party for the first time. And I would say 4 people, it becomes too much immediately. Where like all of a sudden, you're gonna have to reel back on a little bit of the role play to make sure people aren't taking a back seat. But 3 people, you don't have to worry about anybody taking a back seat. You get an odd number, so there can be voting
Yeah.
on direction. And then there's so much room for role playing and narrative and all of those things. And I'm going to say in a friends group, I'm going to say 3.
Yeah, I think I'm roughly aligned with you in terms of like an ideal number being 3. Do you have an ideal number, Gray?
Friends group.
Friends group.
Play-
Like specifically
Players
we're
that
talking
you
about-
players that
yeah.
you know and trust and enjoy.
Well, I do like having 4 players, but my online group is kind of set up so that 4 players works really well in the way that you were talking about earlier, where you have the people who get into the role play, do their thing, and then you have the people who sit back and kind of just they're there to roll dice at things.
Oh, again, yeah, I'm almost counting those like sit back players as like not part of it because I think no matter what number you can choose, you can always add an extra 2 backseat players, and you'd be fine.
I do like 4 though because it kind of gives me because despite it being the meme, never split the party. I think when party split, it's the most fantastic thing in the world because shit could happen. Other players don't have any say as what the other players are doing.
Mm-hmm.
And when you split the party with 4 people, you have 2 groups of 2 doing stuff, and they can do stuff, and they can feel like they're able to do stuff because they got someone backing them up. Can't really do that with a 3-player party because one person might be a little more timid in doing stuff because they don't have anyone else with them. And then the other group might be able to doing stuff because they got backup. Most of my games have been 4 people tables aside from like the in-person stuff that we've done here. I think 2 is pretty good too, although we haven't had a serious campaign. I haven't done a serious campaign with 2 people, and I haven't done a serious campaign with you guys. It was just the 3 of us,
Yeah.
which
Well, we did Realm Watchers for quite a long time.
Realm
with
Watchers
just,
I think
but-
is different.
Yeah,
It is.
I would
It's
label it different than
it's like halfway between a campaign and Westward March.
Yeah.
it's a serious series of games,
Yeah.
but because of the way that the characters ranked and the way that we played the characters,
The lack of actual continuity. There's
Yeah,
no like
yeah, yeah,
consequences between sessions.
I wouldn't label it like how
No, I agree.
generically how people would call like a serious campaign.
I agree.
What were the other questions? What
It's
were the
just
other parts of the
we're just
questions? What
talking
were the other
about-
facets?
Right now, it's if there's players your friends,
Yeah, I do like 4.
like what is your ideal number?
like
It's
4 a lot.
it's funny because like I understand all of the things you're saying, but because of exclusively because of the splitting the party thing, I'm like, I hesitate to care about that, and that's the only real reason I could see for wanting 4. Because I don't like splitting the party very much. I like it to a degree. I don't mind splitting a party in a town or in a village or something like that. But like large splits, I don't like. And in general, I don't like splits because like I had a split on Saturday at one of my tables where one of the characters went to go do something, and it was like RP shit. So it wasn't. There was no danger. They didn't need backup. Blah blah blah. And there's 4 people in that campaign, but they went to go do that, and then the group went to go do something else, and just everybody got around the same amount of screen time, so to speak, but the 2 different scenes got wildly different levels of screen time. In order to get, let's say it's 10 minutes each, that's 30 minutes that was spent over here in this scene and only 10 minutes that was spent over here in this scene. And I kind of felt it where like that player just wasn't involved in the table for 30 minutes, almost straight. And it's like, well, that's kind of my issue with splitting things in general. And because I'm softly against splitting things, I don't see the drive necessarily for 4 in, again, a situation with friends and whatnot. But interestingly enough, we'll get to this in a minute, but I'm just making the statement now. Online with strangers, even ones I'm comfortable with, 4 is my number.
I think I think that hesitate like I'm way more aligned with Gray in terms of like I get that desire, and if it is players you're comfortable with, friends, having people away from DM time, because that is something to be conscious of when you split your party, is managing the time between the two parties, the two groups, and making sure that everyone is playing and that somebody isn't just twiddling their thumbs for half an hour, like you said. But if I have players I like and players that are relatively good players, or like I know that they can handle the downtime, that they're gonna have fun watching the thing happen,
Totally.
then like I have no problem with like, 4 to get the opportunity to split the party. Like, again, my ideal numbers being 2 or 3, but that also, like, kind of like you said, if there's a plus or minus in there, I'm probably plus or minus like 1 of like somebody who isn't as strong of a player.
Yeah.
Like somebody who's either relatively new or isn't quite as like versed into TTRPGs. One more guy in that 2 or 3 person, one more person coming in, and that's at that level. Like I can handle. Like another person who's seasoned, sure, of course. Like another, like I could easily,
Well, I would actually. So, like, when you start getting up against those numbers, if I think 4 is fine. If I had 4 players of, say, seasoned, experienced, participate players, I think adding a 5th experienced season, to me, that'd be a mistake. I would rather not do that.
Yeah, I said plus or minus 1 on my numbers of 2 or 3. So my max number is 4.
Yeah.
Like in terms of like, I think I could get the most out of me as a DM and the fun for my players. I think my max number is like 4. I have run a fucking game with fucking 10 people in this fucking room.
And it's fucking awful. But the reason, so when I talk about, I think, let's say you had 3 experienced or otherwise fully participating players, and I'll bring this back anecdotally, but let's say you have that, and then you add 2 kind of backseat players, don't get too involved, occasionally they roll checks, blah, 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 but overall not overwhelmingly involved. I think that now number of 5 is equally as good as the 3 seasoned players. And I can anecdotally call on, we've had that where it's been you 2 plus Ace being the 3 seasoned players, or 3 participating players, and then my mom and Ace's partner being at the table as well. But both of those players being relatively backseat, don't jump in too much, kind of go with the flow. And to me, that felt just as good as the occasions where it was just the 3 of you.
Yeah.
So for me, whether your number is 3 or 4 with active players, I still think you could tack on an extra 2 less active players and be absolutely fine.
Okay.
I think 4 is a fine number, by the way. I think we could have a lot of fun with 4. We've done 4 multiple times. I think, I don't know. I'm kind of split between 3 or 4. I think I lean 3, personally. For friends groups.
For friends groups. It's fine. This was just reminding me of a different podcast that I listened to, where the conversation was how many dicks on a wall, like drawn on a wall, before it gets crazy, before it's too many dicks on the wall. This feels like this could be a similar conversation. Like 2, not a problem. 3, looks like people are having a fun time. 4, now this could easily go overboard. But for some reason in that podcast, 5 was fine. 5 was great. 4 is when it was trouble. And then once you get to 6, now what are we doing?
I really want to participate, but I know I'll get off topic for a very long time if I do.
Sorry,
I just know I'll run with it for way too long if I participate.
That was just fucking blowing off of my brain.
Yeah.
That fucking conversation. It just reminded me of that. Of just like, there's a party size number.
Yeah. Well, also it's different for every DM.
Yeah, I imagine there are DMs that are way more comfortable, and depending on the group and your players, where like, again, like the most fucking popular entertainment style of D&D, or entertainment show of D&D based, is Critical Role, and that's fucking 7 to 8 players. Like, that's...
Is it?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe I think on average they do 6.
5 would be 6 would be the core group.
Yes, but I believe they have guests that they run on every once in a while.
Once in a while.
But I've seen games like where their table is like 3 at the bottom, 4 at the top.
Oh, no,
Like,
they definitely do it. I'm not saying they don't do it, but I think 6 is their core group. The CR system is based off 4.
Yeah.
I think 4 is actually the recommended number.
Yeah.
In the books.
Yeah, but again,
for D&D.
depending on your comfort as a DM, and if you've run like 5-6 player games and you're comfortable in that space, and you have players that like playing that space, you can get really cool, fun things happening.
It definitely also depends on the style of campaign. It doesn't for this conversation because I feel like all of us are similarly driven, at least in the 2 categories I'm going to present, which would be like more of a narrative game. And then there are games that are just combat, and that would be fine to have 6+ characters. If the idea is that
on the system's combat,
sure,
it
but
can get boring.
Well, I mean, yeah, but if that's what the table is here for,
oh sure,
then if the table is here for combat and this is a combat campaign and there's like minimal, maybe 30 minutes of role playing that happens, and then the rest of a session is combat, and that's going to be pretty much every week, because there are campaigns that are like really, really heavily combat driven and almost use like downtime rules to get to the next combat.
Mm-hmm.
And in a game like that, I think you could have pretty big numbers and be just fine. But anything you're trying to do with narrative, having the time for everybody to participate in role play, and more importantly, participate in role play in every session, I think 3 or 4 players is a pretty solid number. The reason why I lean over to 4 players in a online or otherwise with strangers or otherwise paid game, one of the biggest reasons is player absence affects the table significantly less. If you have 4 people and one person can't make it to the session, you can play on pretty easily.
Yeah.
Now, with friends, you could always work that out. And like with friends, you could even just have a fuck around one shot or something like that. It doesn't matter. Or you could play the campaign and there's easier, better understanding. But like if you have 3 players and you drop it down to 1, a 2-person campaign, like we said, that's the difference between 2 and 3. 3 is company. 3 is a party. If you have 3 players and one person drops out, all of a sudden it's a duo, and a lot of people don't like that. So then your session cancels.
Yeah.
Same thing if you have 2. The difference between 1 player and 2 players is also huge. So if you have 2 players and you drop 1, it's like you almost have to cancel the session. But if you have 4 players or more, but we talked about 4 being a good number, and one person drops out, you still have a game.
Yeah.
Which is why, for me, the number is 4 when talking about with strangers, online, or paid. I like 4 is the number. All of my games online are 4 players.
I think I agree with you that the numbers and everything changes once you're outside of a friends group. Like a friends group who can regularly make time for games.
Yeah.
Because like the game that I played at my job, the one I had, the work game that I had, it was I think like 5 or 6 players,
Mm-hmm.
and that felt pretty good, and it felt fine being a part of it. But again, it was made that way for that reason. Not everyone was going to make it every week.
Yeah.
And it was the West Marches style, which is just
Totally.
like, it's the idea of the session, the mission of the session happens at the beginning, and then you go do it, and it closes out, and then we're done. And then essentially every single session is its own kind of like enclosed story with an overarching like theme happening.
That's actually a really good point. Talking about, I had 2 categories: narrative versus combat-driven campaigns. I think if you're doing a Westward March campaign, I think the number might be higher. I think as far as the number of people continuously invited, but especially if you have a consideration for pretty frequent absences, yeah, I could see even going up to like 6 players.
Yeah.
So that you never have 7 players at the table, because fuck that. By the way, the participation I wanted to do earlier, I think 7 dicks. That's when it gets too much. But so that so that you never have 7 players at the table. You have 6 people continuously invited with the expectation of it probably being smaller than that regularly. But in a Westwards March campaign, having 6 players, I think, is fine. I think it leaves a lot of room for the campaign to play differently each week, and each week is a different story. So what does it matter? But in like a campaign, I think, yeah, smaller numbers the better. I mean, I know it wasn't a campaign, but we played for a while with like 2 players, and like I would be more than happy to. It doesn't to me feel like a limitation, the idea that we're going to start doing active plays. To me, even if we were starting a longer form, if we started doing this professionally and we were like, well, why don't we have the day where we do system exploration, like a day for the podcast, a day for system exploration or active plays in like smaller formats. But if we wanted to add a third day that was like a proper long form campaign, I don't think it would, to me, even feel like a limitation to do just have you 2.
Yeah, of course.
Like, it wouldn't be like, oh, well, we should probably get another body in here. Like, nah, I think 2 people make for a great campaign.
Yeah, I mean, in the games that we played, some of the games that we played were pretty serious and, you know, heavily involved in role play, and like that's again where at least our experience with it, at least for me, those 2-player games were like awesome.
Oh,
It
yeah.
really let people shine. It really let people kind of do what they wanted to do, and like
There was just so much time for, when I was the DM, there was so much time for both of you
yeah,
to do things. And like when we got a 3rd player in Realm Watchers, there was still a pretty decent amount of time. Like that, and then it felt like a party game too. So that felt really good. And then we got, I don't know if we ever got 4. No, we got a 4th player at one point before we moved to a consistent 5. When we have 4 players, it started to get a little bit like, okay, there's a little bit less time for the, it has to be in the writing to achieve a 1-shot, a little bit less time in the investigation because everybody wants to participate in it. And then so either the combat needs to be shorter or the investigation needs to be shorter. And if it got, and that became significantly true when we got 5 players, where it was like, oh, it's not even like a maybe we got to shorten things. Like, no, 5 players, the investigation needs to be pretty quick.
yeah,
And like all of a sudden there just isn't room.
yeah.
Like where with 4 players, there felt like there was less room. 3 players felt like the same amount of room as 2. With 4 players, it felt like there was a little bit less room and maybe you had to do a little bit of adjusting on the day. 5 players changed the way I wrote games.
Yeah. Yeah. For that stuff specifically, for what we were doing specifically with that game.
Yeah, but I would suggest to anybody out there that is like trying to get into D&D, I think running one-shots is such a great way to get your chops up for a campaign, not only in the sense that they don't matter, but also in the sense that like time management. If you have a session, let's say we got together for G&G and Gray was doing something really neat. Actually, I have an anecdote in the opposite direction that we could talk about, but Gray was doing something really interesting and I spent 2 hours on him. That's a bad session. It's great for Gray.
Mm-hmm.
It's great for the DM. We're thriving. But everybody else is like, why did I drive out here this week? You know, like,
Yeah.
so like, I think running one shots for a new DM or an earlier DM or even an experienced DM to occasionally do to go back and remind themselves. Cause I've had to run a one shot recently and we're on the 3rd session of it. So I think running one shots is a great way to figure out time management, specifically, just to bring it back to our topic, around how many players you have. And it's a really great way to figure out how many players for you is comfortable. Because I'll tell you, when you have like fucking 7 dicks at the table, you got 7 dicks on that wall, it becomes really hard to do time management if it's anything other than combat.
Yeah.
Or if it's anything other than RP. If you're trying to do RP and combat in a night, 7's crazy. 6 is hard. 5 is doable, but you have to write for it. 4, you're okay. 3, you do whatever the fuck you want with 3 players.
Yeah.
But that time management and the number of players you have is very visible in the one shot. And the reason why I say that's important is because one shots and campaigns are significantly different. But in terms of time management and attention paid to each player, one shots are a great example of how much you should do that. Because if you're running a one shot and you spend 2 hours on one player, other people just didn't get to participate in that story, not tonight, but ever.
Yeah.
And bringing that into a campaign setting, understand that every night, everybody wants a little bit of interaction, a little bit of the light, you know? And I think that's really hard to accomplish with bigger parties. I don't understand how people regularly have like 7+ players.
I mean, I think I do agree with you to the extent that like one shots, especially if you're starting off, like if you got your friend group and you're like, hey, dude, people want to play D&D, or if you want to do online stuff, you got a Discord or you have like a community online that you're like, hey, I want to run a D&D game because I'm interested, and you got people that want to do it. It's your first time running a game. One shots are a really good way to gauge, one, how you tell your stories, how many people you could tell your stories to, how you decide to build your combat, how you get your players to kind of progress through your stories. It's a good way to kind of get a lot of these different things kind of out of the way and kind of like build through it. It's also like, if you have a solid group that you're going with, it's a lot. I think you can get a lot more information from it that way, because your players could be so different. So
God, yes.
So like you could do these one shots and you can kind of get a relative understanding. Like, okay, I can do this much RP and I can kind of like have these kind of things and throw enough of these kinds of curveballs and still have this kind of combat. And like, okay, I'm going to have my players for 3 hours. Cool. Put it together. And then you just have somebody, 2 people that you're not very familiar with, and they just decide that like, or they have a particular way that they play that it's just like, oh man, you guys are interacting with things I didn't think you'd interact with.
Yeah.
And we're just dragging out. I mean, I know Gray's very familiar with this. You are dragging out something that just doesn't need to be dragged out.
A 1-shot to a 3-shot.
Not my fault. My players are dumb.
You know, you always come back at us with like obviously comical little like jabs and insults and whatnot, but like we enjoy it too.
Yeah.
Generally it's not mistakes that makes it a 3-shot.
You find something that you like, and
and
you
we're having fun
that
with
trail.
it.
Yeah.
Which is, as a DM, it's why. So I said I have a current 1-shot that's we're about to play our 3rd session, because as a DM, it's totally okay to realize like it's not like we're just sitting here making mistakes and fucking it up.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I know there have been no actual complaints about that. Being 3 games
No,
long.
it's the opposite.
Yeah.
You recognize that we're enjoying it and you let us sit in it. And like I went to go run a 1-shot with one of my groups because there was going to be like someone absent, and they were just paying me for the time off. And then I was like, well, do you want to just run like 1-shots and shit away from our campaign while that person's absent? Since you're paying me anyways, I don't mind coming up with shit. So I wrote a 1-shot. It took us like 2 hours to get to the town in a 1-shot because they immediately just started role-playing with each other and whatnot. And I, as the DM, and I obviously above table, I check in with them, but I, as the DM, recognize like, oh, they're having fun with it.
Yeah,
they're enjoying it. And this is the pace that they are comfortable with and that they're having fun. Who cares if it's a 3-shot?
Sure.
Who cares? And if for whatever reason it has to be a 1-shot, then yeah, okay, push the envelope, push it, force it, cool. But if it doesn't need to, which generally between the 3 of us, it doesn't need to, yeah, you put enough interest and intrigue into your world that we drag it out into being a much longer shot. But like everybody at the table's having a good time, so fuck it. Who cares?
Throw 1 kobold to the map, and everybody got to just draw things
if you're
out.
putting a kobold in and you think it's going to be a 1-shot, you got a lot to learn as a DM, mister.
Yeah, that's the thing that you brought up earlier. It's like nobody's complaining. No, I complain every time. I complain every time then why does Gray have to have such interesting red herrings? I don't like it. I don't like the fact that, like, hey, I know we're supposed to be over there, but why'd you put that there? I don't like it. I don't like you put that there because you know I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here for the next hour and a half. And you know this is happening. I feel like you write these things and you're like, I want them to get stuck here.
In all earnestness, yeah, like there's so much interest and intrigue and red herrings and whatnot that, like, I can't help myself. I would feel like we are like forcing ourselves through a game. If it's Gray's game, I would feel like we're like forcing ourselves through it if we tried to do it in a single night.
It's also like, again, I think parts of it have to do with DM style and how you write things. In this conversation, in the context of like the of one shots, it's Gray's just so happens to do a really good job of making these interesting little side plots.
Yeah.
These interesting little side narratives. You, like Sav, you have a pretty decent, or your enthusiasm for like just improvising.
Yeah, and
just
role play and allowing the players to role play.
The players to play in a space of where they want to talk to the conductor of the train for what was supposed to be the time skip 30 minutes to get to the location, but they want to talk to him for those complete 30 minutes. Yeah, you will allow your players. You're like, yep. Have this conversation.
So on that note, I had this Saturday I had in the post game in public, and I was like, by the way, everybody needs to show appreciation for this player, and everybody's like, what? And I was like, listen, I had the wizard that had the ability to pull characters into their mind. I had timey-wimey shit where they were spent significantly more time in the mind than in real life. And when they came back to real life, we had a fun little role play of them being disoriented because, like, imagine putting yourself back in at 7:55 yesterday. If you just got snapped into your shoes yesterday at 7:55, exactly where you were halfway through a conversation with your sister, you'd be fucked up. You'd be like, whoa, hold on, I need to get my bearings, right? So we had a fun little role play and all of that. And it went great, and that was everything I wanted it to be. We spent like 15, 20 minutes on it. Cool. And then I had a different player at the end. We got all the information we needed. It's time to move on. Move on with the story. And then I had another player that was like, can I go into the wizard's mind? And I was like, are you actually asking? Yeah. Okay. He leans forward. Look into his eyes. You looking into his eyes? Yeah. Are you conceding the check? Yeah. You go into his eyes. And then we like started playing it out, and I immediately started like, because I was really interested in it, I immediately started like waving little carrots in front of them of the things that would be pertinent to that player within this wizard's mind.
Yeah.
And then the player was like, well, I would love to come back here at a later date and explore those options, but for now we have a job to do. And I was like, oh, you know, that was a really respectable decision, because I would have let you play alone solo RP for the next hour straight inside this wizard's mind because I was having fun. So thank you to the player for realizing that, yes, this was a moment where someone could talk to the conductor for 30 minutes because the conductor is interesting. And the player was like, the player knew he would get sucked in. I knew I was already sucked in. I was already allowing it to happen. And the player was like, well, this is a party game, so let's get back to the party.
Yes. And also, like, rolling that back into the topic is like, that's a huge part too, is your party size can really be dictated on the responsibility that your players have to the rest of the party.
100%.
If you know your players, or if you just happen to, if you don't know your players and you happen to get lucky, that your players are very responsible to the story.
Yeah.
And they're responsible to the people that are there, reasonable and respectful to the fact that they're playing a party game, that you're in. Like, that's what everyone talks about, is the communal storytelling aspect of TTRPGs, and why people like it so much is because the story is being told by everybody that's involved. But like, that means other people are involved.
Yeah.
And if one person or two people, or if the whole party is like being relatively selfish, with like trying to get the most DM time or trying to get like the like trying to be the one that is doing the major event in the game, like then starting to get larger sizes or it becomes harder.
So I was just going to talk about that. I'm going to present an issue, and I'm going to present it in a way that the internet doesn't, which is it is an issue, but it's not accusatory. I think everybody needs to pay attention to the fact that they have the party and they need to be responsible. But I think it's something that you need to actively think about, because you are thrown into a fantasy setting where someone who is directing it asks you to create this fantastical backstory and why your characters, what they are, the arcs that they want to go through, things that might come up, and just really make you feel unbelievably important before the game even starts. And then you get thrown into a situation where everybody on the internet is like, don't have main character syndrome. And it's like you are given every degree of being a main character and then asked not to be a main character, which is fine. And it's true. And you do have a responsibility to do that. You're not a main character. You're one of the main characters in a group setting. But it is really easy to fall into the trap of thinking of yourself as a main character.
Yeah.
Because you want your character to be important. You want them to have depth. You want them to participate. So it's really easy to fall into. And I don't blame people in general for falling into that trap. I think it's something you have to actively think about to not do. That being said, that becomes way less important, and the emphasis you need to put on that becomes way less important with the smaller party size. I will go to obviously barring one. I think our post ad talk is going to be about single player campaigns. Barring one player, the smallest party size you could have would be 2 players, and when you have 2 players, dude, you could spend. I mean, in an RP session, you can spend 2 hours each on your characters. Or let's say 1 hour, let's say 2 hours interacting with each other and the world, and you could still do an hour just for your character and an hour just for character B. And it's fine. It's not a problem at all. If you really like, if you struggle with it, or 2, if you just are looking for that little bit of like main character vibes, play a 2-person campaign. It fits. It works really well, and it's all of a sudden not problematic. The same thing with like the,
as long as your players are good with that, because like you said, it's if somebody has an hour downtime and they're not playing, even though it is only a 2-player party,
sure,
that player has to be okay with watching somebody else.
Well, no, not necessarily. Because if they're together. We already talked about this earlier with Gray's thing about having 4 so that you could split them in pairs. If they're together, it's just not going to be an exclusive thing. And if they're separate, as a DM, you don't do 1 hour with one person and 1 hour with another person. You jump back and forth. That's DM responsibility.
Of course.
So you could still, with taking it out of the player's hands, the player can do the full main character thing in that 1 of the 4 hours. And as the DM, you can call that so that it's not boring for the table.
Of course. I was just making sure that. It's parts of the conversation.
There's still a level of responsibility.
Yeah, we were talking about like 30-minute straight sessions. And when you were like, an hour with this guy, then I was like, holy shit.
Yeah. No. But like an hour accumulative.
Split.
Yeah.
You know, like doing DMing the way you should. The not should, but the way that.
As best as you can, hopping back and forth.
Yeah, make sure nobody's fucking.
In the same light, I, in general, do not like the typical understanding of a chaotic aligned character that is otherwise disruptive, right? Not something I enjoy. That being said, and I mean this as a compliment, and they're only doing it because of the situation. I have a campaign that is a couple, and they are, both of them, that kind of level of chaos, but also they are the player party.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's not disruptive at all to be that level of chaotic where they're just like, I don't like the way this guy talks, so let's throw him off the boat. Yeah, do it, because guess what? It's not something that you're doing that takes away from what the party's doing. That's what the party is doing. There's only 2 of you. So like, also, if you are someone that wants to play that really like completely chaotic murder hobo-y evil run through, a 2-person or even a 1-person, but a 2-person, as long as both of them are on that same page, that is a phenomenal place where you can do that.
Yeah,
where you're not going to disrupt anything, you're not going to bother anybody, and you can fully live out your chaotic fantasy.
I agree with you. The only thing I would say, or like one of the things I was going to say earlier, which is like when I did run that game with like 8+ people.
Yeah.
Part that did make it a little bit interesting to me, at least. I know it wasn't the best for a lot of the party members, which is why a lot of people ended up stopped playing. But it's like chaotic things would just happen because there's so many people and so many people wanted different things, and it was hard for me to keep up and be aware of like what was happening. So things would happen, and all of a sudden I'm like, holy shit! Like,
yeah, but that is why people fell off.
It is why people fell off.
So I get what you're saying. Where like in the moments they were fun, but like every time we've done those large parties, it's always whittled down to like 5 people.
Yeah.
And it's only ever became a cohesive story after whittling down.
But it's part of the whittling down. Also, could be because the party size is so big, but part of the whittling down, at least in my experience of it, is those 8+ people. The majority of them had never played D&D before.
Oh yeah, that didn't help
or
at all.
TTRPGs before. So like, this is. It also could be a bad thing, which is like this is their first experience with it, and like,
yeah, how many people have we turned off of D&D?
Yeah, like
hey, come in. There's only there's going to be the 12 of your best friends. It's just an awful experience.
Yeah, like how many of those people would have, on their own, if it was a better party size, better party composition, would they have continued to play D&D or TTRPGs? Would they have found a love for it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
On that note, our 2 friends that we had brought to the table to teach them how to play, and they did that one, and one of them was Bender, and blah, blah, blah. And both of them had a little bit of that Looney Tunes goofiness and whatnot. Not the one that was Bender, but the other one. I really want to drag her into, it's still a one-shot or whatever, but just to give her the experience, I wonder how she would feel about a serious game. I think she might thrive in, and like the realization that like, oh, this can be like super narratively driven and serious and emotional. I think she might find that really cool. She was goofy and chaotic in that campaign, so it's not like she didn't have fun. But I always want to show people that our friend. We don't have a nickname for him here, but our friend that played the Bender-like character, I don't think he would get anything out of a serious game. I just don't think it's his cup of tea.
I think he could do it. I don't think it'd be a place he'd want to necessarily.
I think he could do it. I don't think he would enjoy it.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be something that he'd be into. Is like this is something I'm going to be doing on my weekends.
Yeah.
His partner.
Yeah,
I think she could.
I could see her.
She could. The only thing that gets me a little hesitant about like in a really serious game, it's like really dramatic and stuff like that with her, is I think it all depends on the day that she decides to play and what she was doing, because in the game that we played,
she was already so tired.
She was tired and she had a little bit of analysis paralysis and like she didn't really want to make a lot of decisions and like. Yeah, because it was like post work, and it was just a weird time.
I think you could put that on anybody, though. To me, that's not a deterrent. I would still want to drag her into something serious. I don't know if there would ever be a good opportunity too because of those things, but
I think I agree with you. I think she did have there's a little bit of a spark there where I do feel like she could really find herself getting lost into the enjoyment of why we got addicted to TRPGs. Yeah, I think there is an opportunity for her. But again, it is one of those things where like, I think there's a couple things to kind of just be aware of. Yeah. And I think that it again, your party composition, your people you're playing with, it's all things to take note of when you're playing with people, to like take these notes, to like watch these people and to like the different things that you can push and pull, especially if they're going to be a consistent player, or if you want them to be a consistent player with your party.
To emphasize something you both said about Gray's one-shots always becoming 3-shots, Gray's jokes and jabs are always that, like, well, it's not my fault my players blah, 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 blah. And then your joking jabs in response is always like, well, you make everything so interesting. I absolutely have players where I think you would struggle to turn it into a 2-shot. All of your little red herrings and side interest things, they would just be like, I don't care. I'm moving towards the goal. And also I'm going to combat the goal, whether it's a combat answer or not.
That's a weird player to me.
Look, I'm not going to say anything good or bad, but I understand. I understand what you mean. I mean, clearly, I understand what you mean because me and Nick's are the opposite. Every time we're in one of your games, like, you don't even we look for the interesting things that we could spend 2 hours on. How do we make this longer?
If I'm in a Gray game, you bet he probably even wouldn't want it in the world, or he didn't design it in the world. I'm looking for a kobold.
Not all of those red herrings were planned to be there as well. Some of them are just, oh yeah, there's a thing.
Yeah,
oh
sure.
God, I do that all the time. Like with the way that I fucking improvise fucking so much of my games. I do that all the time where I just like dig holes. I was telling my grandma, I was trying to explain. She was interested, so I was trying to explain things, and I was explaining the improvising aspect of things.
I like the version where she's not.
Okay, she wasn't interested at all, and I was just talking at her while she was trying to watch TV. Anyways, I was trying to explain it, and I was like, "Oh, I just also I get into these like loops of improvisation, where like I will start talking, and like it could be something easy where like a character brings something up, and I have to have an answer. What I was telling her is like I always have to have an answer. So like, doesn't matter how much I prepare." Players might ask me something that I don't have an answer for, and the reality is they expect one. I have to give them one. So if they're like, "Hey, is there a sewer system here?" I'm gonna be like, "Well, the more impoverished parts of town have septic tanks where they dig them out, and there are holes that exist under their homes or places of business, and that is where they relieve themselves. But the wealthier parts of town do have an underground sewer system that was built by the city based on the taxes that the wealthier people pay." And then like jokingly, like with a hand gesture, pushing that conversation aside and then talking to my grandma what would be above table. And I'm like, and then as soon as I say that out loud, I realize I've dug myself into a hole where now I have to improvise a whole taxation system for this fucking city. And I do that all the time where if someone asks me a simple question and I'm like, well, here's an explanation, and the explanation has so much intrigue in it that they keep asking me fucking questions, and I just keep expanding on, and all of a sudden there's like a whole infrastructure to this fucking hamlet that they're supposed to pass through and not even stay in. I dig myself like little holes and put myself in little corners like that all the time where I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm going to talk about draconic lore that I know nothing about for 30 minutes straight because I told you there's draconic lore here.
Yeah. I mean, in that same vein, I wouldn't have gone taxes. I would have gone the Roman route, where it's just like, one of the rulers decided to put in a sewer system, and then all of a sudden, now I have a lineage of rulers, and now rulers just make decisions.
Yeah,
rulers just get like, I want to put in a sewer system. Well, a guy did that.
But the thing is that it's hard to say, without being in the situation, what route you would have taken.
Oh yeah,
because
course.
If you were preparing, and even in this situation, me finishing my whole spiel, me and Gray laughing about it, you had time to think about it and you went the Roman system. I just said shit in the moment off the top of my head, yeah. And the first thing that pops into my head is like, septic tanks. Who's digging these septic tanks? I don't know.
Some guy.
The slaves. Oh, there's slavery in your town? It's the Goliaths. The people didn't think they were people.
God, actually, that would be pretty interesting if you had if there was a system where regular humans somehow enslaved the Goliaths.
Yeah, I have that in one of my worlds.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Well,
yeah,
is it a good time?
Yes, I think it's a good time.
Some sort of table that could be looted on.
I think looted on.
I mean,
yes,
that's what you do to a loot table, correct? You just loot on it.
You have our permission to
let's get hyped.
Let's play the music. Yes,
I'm already playing it.
You're not interrupting anybody. It was a good move.
It's
fine.
No, I'm interrupting people.
I was going to give a whole speech.
I mean, Gray was ready.
He was just waiting for the moment.
I saw him like
Freaking unload.
getting prepared for it.
And that's why you did it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Of course.
All
I
right.
have no more joy.
Today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Epic. How do you pronounce that? Raiment?
Yes.
Epic Raiment.
Okay. Look here. Well, close your eyes. Wow. Why?
How did you break? You broke immediately.
Ding ding.
I moved my microphone away. I put food in my mouth. I wasn't even looking at him intentionally to not laugh at it. I can't even chew. There's still food in my mouth.
You guys. Jeez. Make the worst stand-up comedians feel very special. Look here. Well, close your eyes and imagine this. A cheap, plain white cotton tunic. It's dull, boring, drab. Nothing you'd want to be caught wearing in public, but something you'd wear at home on the weekends when you know you ain't got nothing to do and nowhere to go. But what if it had a gaudy purple block with some white text on it that runs right across the chest? Now that is an epic raiment. Yes, the folks down at Epic Raiment are temporarily breaking their planned scarcity marketing scheme to milk money out of hyper-consumer, Starbucks-guzzling, champagne socialist Instagram influencers to give you the opportunity to buy a 1 copper shirt for 75 silver. That you can resell anywhere between 200 to 2,000 gold. And with this special run, you can now own your very own Adventure in Mind special edition Epic Raiment. Yes, with a wide selection of tunics, studded leather vests, brigandines, field plate armors, you can be a proper head-ass jackass with your very own set of Epic Raiment branded protective gear. But that's not all. Epic Raiment is now offering a wide array of armaments to round out your sweet new threads. Maces, clubs, shields, and swords, all cheaply forged and rubber stamped with a big fat Epic Raiment logo right across the blade, handle, or boss.
I just recognized what it is.
Tired of feeling unseen in your cloak and invisibility? Get an Epic Raiment cloak that will draw the attention of everyone in the room. Is your crowbar throwing off your fashion game, hanging off your pack and just looking all dull and functional? Ugh. Epic Raiment has a new crowbar just for you. Why sit around and wait to get robbed by highwaymen and supposed friends who decided to go the way of the rogue when you could rob yourself with an Epic Raiment today?
Correct me if I'm wrong. The whole thing is just a dig on Supreme, isn't it?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. As much as you can dig on Supreme and Epic Raiment.
Raiment.
Yeah. Raiment. Epic Raiment. The resale value is off the charts. It's crazy. I have a collection. I only buy Epic Raiment because I know that I could sell it on the market for twice what I cost, 3 times, 10 times, depending on like how limited the edition of the thing I bought. Like that crowbar, it only existed for like 3 milliseconds on their website, and they only sold like 10 of them.
The only thing I want from Epic Raiment is the brick that says Epic Raiment on it so that I can use it to bash your teeth out.
You know what I want? I want the sticker that says Epic Raiment that also has a logo of Epic Raiment on it. I want the logo in the logo. If you could give me a fucking 4-dimensional hypercube of Epic Raiment, I would fucking love it.
It's the only one of our sponsor things that's more than just a sticker. It's like a whole box or something for no reason.
Oh, that was so good.
Lovely. What was the opening line?
Look here.
Look here.
How did look here get
It was the way he said it. It was the way he said look here. It was just immediately it immediately dug me into like, oh, this is going to be full advertisement, full gray advertisement voice, and I fucking love gray advertisement voice, and it just, I don't know, it shook me.
You know what? I can't give you shit cuz I broke so hard on Ding Ding. So like
Ding Ding was.
But it's also you
know what's funny? You know what's funny about the Ding Ding one? I even say this in the recording. Like if you go listen to that advertisement, the funny thing about the Ding Ding one was you broke.
Yeah.
I was fine. You broke, and you breaking broke me. And we even laugh about that concept later. In the recording, I break first.
Oh yeah.
I don't think it picked. I think you were. I think you were like quietly breaking.
Yeah, he was holding it together in the corner.
Quietly just
was just, like,
shattering.
shuddering,
Yeah. I was perfectly fine. I see you quiet shattering, and then I break out loud. So my whole argument about you breaking first doesn't make any sense in the recording because you go ding ding, and almost immediately you hear me just start fucking bellowing laughter.
The other thing that wasn't captured in the recording, in the audio recording, is one of the reasons that got me fucking shuddering, and the reason why I don't look at Gray when he does his reads anymore is because he did the ding ding with his fucking finger up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's what got me.
Ding ding. It was not even just finger up. It was a little. It was a little like swirl and head bobble with the fucking finger
ding,
up.
Ding. And I was
Ding,
like, holy
ding.
fucking shit, that was crazy. That was craziness.
The funny thing is, again, that the audience can't see, and it's part of what got me with the fucking look here, is you get into a character. I don't know if you know that.
I do.
You get into a
I
character
know.
every time. You sit up, you adjust yourself in a way, and you're not looking at anyone or anything, but like you make facial expressions and whatnot. So there was like a sitting up proper, simultaneously your eyebrows raising, and a little bit of like a head nod snap thing as you went, look here. and immediately the whole fucking image of Gray Salesman Gray just fucking broke me immediately. And I don't know why.
It's funny because like I didn't break from it. You breaking went crazy to me. I think part of it was, like I said with the fucking ding ding ding, I don't look at Gray anymore.
I try not to.
I think if I was
I
looking
moved
at
my
you-
microphone. There was an awkward silence before our ad read because I announced it, and then while Gray was getting ready, instead of just filling space, I prepared. I moved my microphone fully away from me. I grabbed some food. I immediately shoved it in my mouth, and I started preparing myself to be able to look down.
Yeah.
Full bite within my mouth, out of my peripherals. I see all of that fucking movement, and then look here. And it just fucking killed me. It killed me immediately. Who would have thought of all of our friends, for how quiet you are, that you were the one that has a Mr. Bean level of physical comedy to your person?
It is the thing that I totally am 100% for, that we did it, that like this character, this Salesman Gray, has slowly evolved out of. We did ad reads, and we were like, well, we should give Gray the ad reads just to the ones we had before, because Gray doesn't say a lot.
Well, also because I'm physically incapable.
Yeah,
I'm physically incapable. You were capable, but
fine.
no offense, just not very, like, not that they weren't funny. It wasn't like there wasn't like a character to it or anything. It was a little dry.
It was an okay performance.
It was fine. I literally couldn't read the words in the first sentence of things. I'm apparently illiterate. I did not take that skill. It's AD&D. And then
ADD.
yeah,
He has AD&D as well.
I also have AD&D. And then Gray read it, and we were like, "That was smooth. It was good."
It was
and
clean.
then on top of all of that, he doesn't talk a whole lot. So like, why not give him a full bit in the show?
Yeah, and then it's slowly evolved to like, oh, hey, Gray, could you? We didn't actually write out these other ad reads, using our shitty way we did before. And like, how about you take a crack at it? You take a crack at writing some of the ad reads.
Oh, we didn't even ask him to do the writing. We asked him to take a crack at it, but our expectations when we asked him was
just
to
to
just
rewrite.
Clean it up. Make it
clean up
Yeah.
the spamming of whatever.
I think you did that for like one or two of them, and then you just started to
like 4 of them maybe.
and then you just started actually writing them.
Yeah, and I'm
And
like,
then
this
it's-
one sucks. I'm just gonna rewrite this.
yeah, and then it just became, oh man,
So good. So good.
so good.
All right.
Anyways,
Wait, I don't know why I'm rolling anything.
party size.
Party size. 1 player campaigns or games. I don't have a crazy amount of experience with it.
I've
But
only seen it.
I
I've
have-
never actually played it.
I've done it for a bit. So I've had so my Saturday games started with I felt bad that like when I was in the recruiting phase for that game, I had a player join pretty early on and then was waiting for like a month or something. And I was like, well, I feel bad that they're just waiting. Like they're going to bounce. They're going to go to a game that's full. And they're being nice and they're being patient, but I felt bad. So I ran a one shot for them. And then another like week or two went by and there were like no players. And I was like, do you want to just start running it? Because part of that game was that it was going to be kind of like a customized campaign anyway. So I was like, well, why don't you and me just customize it? And then I will post a new listing with what me and you come up with for the campaign, and people can just join that. So no longer doing the custom thing for the party. People could just join that, and then me and you could just get going. And we played for like a month together of just one-on-one, and it was fine. It wasn't awkward like people think it is. It wasn't uncomfortable. So much room for RP. Building the world around a single player is also so much easier, and improvising around a single player is so much easier. That player got to fully live out, whatever path they wanted to take. There was no collaboration necessary.
Yeah.
It was great. It was great. I would do it again. I am not scared at all or uncomfortable at all. The only reason why I don't do it professionally is that like I can't justify charging the amount that I need to charge to pay my bills.
Sure.
Because it would be too expensive for a single player. But at least at this point, with as little renown around my name as there is currently.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was wonderful. And I would absolutely do it again. A one person, there's so much you can do with a single person. It's a completely different game. There is no party at all. It's not even a duo, obviously. It's a single person. But it runs really well. And you can do very interesting things that you can't do with a party.
Oh, wait. Did we actually play the game, or was it more of like going through the motion of it when I did the one with you?
We did a single session, and it was fine. The only reason why we stopped was because the game kind of stopped, and time.
Yeah.
We were running parallel to a campaign, and we couldn't get ahead of the campaign. So that's why we kind of put a pause on it, and then before we ever got back to it, it stopped. But it was half and half. It was a lot of like kind of downtime play, going through the motions, making rolls to see if a big event happened. But then there was a little bit of role playing that we did as well.
Okay, I just remembered that we did that. You had like a party that you created from NPCs, and I was starting to make the characters.
Oh, I think you made them. I think I insisted on you making them because I didn't want to cultivate my thing. Yeah.
Sorry, I meant like you wanted to establish a party.
Yeah, I was trying to take a lot of money and turn it into a guild very quickly.
Yeah.
So what I was doing was acquiring jobs and then paying other people less money to go and do those jobs instead of me doing them through NPCs that I met in taverns and whatnot. But yeah, that was... We kind of played through it a little bit. I didn't think that was awkward at all
no, it was fine.
either. The only thing that was awkward about it is that we had to do it in my bedroom because my brother was the target of why we were doing it. So we couldn't do it in the public spaces in the house.
Yeah.
That was the only part that was like a little bit weird, is like grown-ass men. And I'm like, come sit in my bedroom and look into my eyes. But beyond that, it was fine. It's not nearly as awkward as people think it is. Two adults telling fantasy stories to each other. It's not awkward. It sounds awkward. It's not. And you could do some really cool, unique things with the single player. It is a very specific flavor of TTRPGs.
Yeah.
But it's fantastic. I would never call it my ideal number, but because it is just so different, it's uniquely its own thing. Kind of like 2 players is kind of uniquely its own thing, which is why I landed on 3 earlier. 3 is a party, and it is technically a party game. But I think there are a lot of people that don't consider single player campaigns when they really, really should. Oh my God. How many times have you heard the narrative of someone not being able to find a group to play with? Right? And then how many times it's less than that, but a subcategory of not finding enough people to play with. It's bullshit. It's bullshit because you can play with two. You need a DM and a player, and you can have a fantastic time playing D&D.
I think a lot of that narrative also spins from the big stuff that's out there, the thing that people model how they should be playing D&D and how they should be playing TTRPGs after are usually bigger parties.
Yeah.
So when people think like, oh, we don't have enough players for a party or whatever, it's like, I think people they think their party size needs to be like four people plus the DM.
Yeah.
So like, if not more than that. So like people think that I think that's where that comes from.
Well, I think you're right. And like the recommendations in the book being 4, but if you could find one fucking person, you can DM for them. And if you can find one person as interested as you are, you can have them DM for you, or you could switch off DMing and just play mini campaigns or short stories. In fact, if you're new and you're trying to find a group, you should be playing one shots anyways, in my opinion. It's a great place to start. So like, if you could find one other person, don't let the internet mislead you. A one-person campaign is not awkward. It is definitely a unique way to play, but there is a lot of merit to it, and it's very, very fun.
Sure. Gray, have you ever run a single?
No. I want to though, and I have a game in mind that just needs me. It has all the groundwork there, has all the lore, the story, world building stuff there. I just need to actually construct the game itself.
Sure.
And I'd like to find someone I think is capable of playing it. I just never had the chance or the player.
If we reach any level of success where I could drop a game, I'm your guy.
Well, there are some things to it. And then you also have to learn my entire system.
That was a definite, not you.
But
that was a no. Yeah.
No, this is a warning. If you can handle this. But
what are the things? Just out of curiosity, you mind talking about it?
The main character, the character that you would play, is a set character. You're not building them. You kind of have to. You're gonna have to fit the mold of that character.
Not
in
as like
in my view.
Not as like a. That's something I want to do all the time. But I've actually always wanted to do that. Even in a more serious game, I find it fascinating. The classic figuring out a character and writing a character and whatnot, but also like just kind of like as a test my improvisation skills, test my acting skills and whatnot. I would love to jump into a pre-written character. I've been thinking about that for years now, actually. My first character was a pre-written character because all of our characters were like starter pre-written characters, but I didn't know how to play back then.
Yeah.
And since then, I've had to write my own character, and I love writing my own characters, obviously, but I've had to write my own characters. But I've been thinking about it since that campaign ended of like, I would love to jump into something with a pre-written character, and I would love to see how well I can fit a role.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is like the main requirement for this campaign.
Sure.
I would even go so far as to say, as when I'm done building the actual game, that I would be writing what is essentially a short story about that character and their past and any pertinent information that might be involved in the campaign.
Sure.
And so that's like the number one thing. So finding someone who could fit that bill.
I think I'd be into that. I don't have the time right now, so find someone else.
Of course.
But
and then after that is you're going to be playing in 5-point high bar advanced Dungeons and Dragons. So that's a whole other thing you got to learn.
Yeah, I mean, first of all,
Is that your name for it? 5-point?
That's what I'm calling
5-point
it
high bar.
Okay.
First of all, fuck, I forgot what I was gonna say. First of all, I think at this table in general, for me and Nix, we're both interested because other than the one shot that we kind of played, we've never actually seen your system.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen AD&D.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, that's not a turnoff for me because I want to get to know your system anyways, though I don't think that should be necessarily the first place for it. I think group setting would be a better first place for it. And then second of all, all of my complaints about AD&D mostly came from a place of organization and like how spread out. I know you're very comfortable with that PDF, but like I didn't know where fucking anything was.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like very complicated math on top of disorganization in my eyes. That was my issue.
It was
with
it was also like Gray was like, oh, we're gonna use these complementary books.
yeah.
So like, yes,
the complementary books drew a lot of things into it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was one of the things where like, oh yeah, we're looking here. But we have to go over here
Yeah.
to get these things. It's because we were using
Yeah.
additional material.
But at the end of the day, at least from my point of view, I don't know your point of view. I'm sure it's the same though. While it was a lot, and for me personally a little bit overwhelming, we still got through it. It just took us way too long, and specifically me way too long. You did a lot better at building your character than I did, Nix. But we did get through it, and I had a good time.
Yeah.
So it like none of that's to me. None of that. As long as my DM, which in this case, if it were me and you, as long as my DM is understanding of those things, like yeah, I'm down to learn any system.
Yeah. I find it mechanically fascinating. Like
So do I.
When we do learn new games, or like again developing the nuances of yours, or even Sav with his game, it's the mechanics are fascinating, and I do enjoy. Even when we played AD&D, like
Yeah.
it was a lot, and there was a lot to do and whatever. I was fascinated with it for like months.
Yeah.
I literally the system I was working on, so many aspects of it, I was like, well, do I lean more into this AD&D stuff? Because that
Yeah.
was really cool. So I had a huge, I had shifts.
I almost wish I just had a list of like pertinent links instead of having to learn the organization of a PDF. And the reason why I say that is like, I feel like a little bit of my struggle with that was just being in my head feeling like an idiot, because I'm like, okay, well now I got all of these extra points to spend and I have to go back to all of those other sections of this very deep categorized PDF. I don't remember. So like every 3 seconds I was like, hey, how do I get back to feats again? Hey, how do I get back to equipment again? And like I think it became a little bit frustrating for me because I was in my head about being like an idiot that can't figure this out. But it was all exclusively the organization of the document. It had nothing to do with the mechanics themselves.
Yeah. Purple Worm, their domain I think went down, so I think they're trying to establish their database. But there's also a wiki on fandom.
There was also nothing wrong with it. I just didn't know it.
Yeah, the wiki on fandom is a lot easier to use if you just want to have those links open as
Yeah.
opposed to Purple Worm, which is weird.
I mean, it's also like such an old system and such a you have to have enjoyed these games and wanted to play them again in order to find these particular websites and these links.
Yeah.
So like you don't have like the audience is there to be like, oh, they're willing to do the digging. There isn't an audience that, or at least that I can think of, where like they're gonna spend time putting it into like an app.
Yeah.
Putting time to organizing it in a much more finessed way, where like something like 5e, like WotC's Overhaul 5e and D&D Beyond, where like they try to make it as easy as possible for people to jump in and play. That's not the goal for like, even if somebody who is very good at like software architecture and building an app, I don't even think they'd have that much of an interest to build AD&D to be
Oh yeah, I
be
get
that
you.
quick jump on.
I
because
I
their
really
interest is in that complexity.
I really, really would love to do. I mean, it's where I would want to do like a Kickstarter or something. Is I would really love to hire someone to come in and build online, like D&D Beyond, or Pathfinder has a similar tool for our games.
Yeah, of course.
Because it would be like
onboarding would
it just
be-
makes it
yeah.
so much
Mhm.
more accessible. And therefore onboard. I think that's a huge
Yeah,
D&D
oh, yeah.
Beyond
Oh, yeah.
is such a huge reason why D&D still
Yes.
is king.
I think it's one of the biggest reasons why
Yeah.
there has been like one. It's of course credit where credit is due with Critical Role and making
Stranger Things.
Stranger
and-
Things
yeah,
to
all of those things that
popularizing-
popularized it.
popularizing the idea of playing D&D.
Yeah.
It's D&D Beyond making it so that people who have that inkling, who are like, oh, this is now a popular
it
concept,
facilitates that.
just D&D
Oh.
Beyond making it so easy.
If
to
5
just get on
5e
play.
and D&D Beyond did not exist, Stranger Things and Critical Role the vast majority of people would have watched that and been like, "That's really cool. How do I do that?" And then they'd go to Purple Worm and be like, "Nah, never mind."
Or like, oh, I have to get a book and there's sheets and pencil and paper and like, what the fuck is this? Like, yeah, I'm all right.
Oh yeah. Oh, the moment you have to get a piece of paper, yeah, out.
But the majority of people are like,
A
oh,
pencil? What am I in high school
yeah.
again?
It's like, oh, there's an app I download. Oh, this down. Okay, and it's connected to everything. Oh yeah, cool. All right, I'm good. Like, yeah, here. Also, like your DM is like, oh, here's a sheet, and you pick it up.
Yeah.
Like you go here, log in, pick up this character, and now you're that character.
Yeah, I would love to build out for all of our systems.
Oh yeah, that'd be so cool.
First priority to me, tools on the website where you could just build character sheets very easily. It doesn't have to have the same depth as D&D Beyond. I would like to show you guys when we do the system exploration for Pathfinder, their version of the tool, because it's way less of an overall UI and is way more of a here's your character sheet, build your character, level your character. That is the website.
Yeah.
It is just the builder part and the leveling part and adding equipment. But in any case, yeah, I'd love to show you that because that's more representative of what I would like to do as the first priority. And then the second priority, as far as it being appetizing, I know there's a lot of like post-session talk, but
I know we're way off.
It's the last thing. Would be VTT tools.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be super useful to bring this in. In any case, I mean, it's cool. I don't have anything built for a single player campaign. It's cool that you have something built, that you have the motivation to want to do a single.
It's all because of my first campaign. They caused it all.
Your first ever campaign?
They made a problem, and now it's just a world event, and I want someone to play through it.
Love it.
As a bit of a spoiler,
well, I don't know. Maybe don't. I might play this someday.
Okay.
It sounds like I might play this someday.
All right.
I might not be the first one or the only one that you do this with, but I'm interested.
I won't spoil it then. I'll just say that the story came out to be very similar to another very popular form of media that is formative in my ears, I guess I could say. So
I mean, yeah,
it
you
kind of
draw
just fits, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going with this.
Yeah, you drew inspiration from something that you liked.
Well, no, it came. It was like a happy accident.
Oh, okay.
All the characters that I made and all the things that happened,
Okay.
kind of just fit into that role. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go with this.
Okay.
And this is now the story of that.
Okay. Cool.
Nice.
So I'm looking for someone. I'm looking for the time to build it, and then I'm trying to look for someone to play it.
Time is goddamn.
Yeah.
If this shit, we talk about it all the time. I'm hoping this thing. I'm hoping for success.
I like this week. Couple post show.
I was about to say before
Push-up.
we. Is there anything else you want to talk about party size?
No, I mean we've talked about 1 player, 2 player, 3 player, 4 player, and then
Once you start getting
5+ player. No, yeah, I think we're good. I think we've talked about like the merits of why each number is good, and
I think single player is very interesting to me. Koibu has a long running series. I'm not sure if he still does it. Called Dicing with Death, where most of the players are his like longtime friend who he got into D&D with, and it's very interesting with just watching how much can happen and how much that they just you can as a DM do and you can as a player do when there's just the two of you.
Oh my God.
It's just one-on-one, and it's like 400 to 500 episodes of it.
It was one thing that like
and it's all different storylines. It's not just the same thing all across.
The like 4-hour game sessions.
4-hour game sessions
are pretty prominent. Back to like recommending if you can only find one person you could still play. Don't necessarily aim for 4 hours. Really make sure that your DM is comfortable, because I will say, DMing one-on-one for 4 hours straight is a lot.
Yeah,
it is a lot. Especially when you're like, as I was like getting to know someone through doing it, it was a lot. Like I'm sure me and you would probably be better, but like even then I would say I would need to go in understanding and you would need to go in understanding that it's okay for you to be like, hey, let's put a pin in it here. Yeah, even if it's only been an hour and a half.
If you only have one person, like usually when you have more than one person,
so much content.
You can do a lot of stuff, but sometimes you're not really thinking that far ahead, and another person who's doing something over there might give you the time to breathe to make
Yes.
you think of what needs to happen over here.
Mm-hmm.
So
And you don't have that with one person. With one person, it is just you're just sprinting through content and sprinting through like having to have answers and make it interesting and blah blah blah. It is a lot.
Yeah.
Now, in short bursts, I think it'd be fine. I would still recommend, even to a new player or new DM, if you can only find one person, do it. Just maybe do a shorter session. Don't necessarily, for the sake of your DM. For the player, I mean, you could just continue playing forever as a player. Being a player is relatively easy. Being a player is a fun time only.
Yeah.
And being a DM is like half fun, half crippling work.
Because the only examples I know of are like anecdotally hearing stuff on the internet of like essentially like boyfriends or husbands taking their
Sure.
wives through games.
And I
So-
can be that for both of you.
You know, I was trying to think of there's a podcast I used to listen to called D&D, and I remember listening to episodes where it was just the two players. I looked on their description; they talks about having it's a bigger party, but I swear I remember at some parts either it was like in prologues or whatever some of their story where it was just the husband and his wife and they were doing their story together, and I was like, oh okay. And then of course there's like a really famous one with like Stephen Colbert and Matt Mercer, where they do them two.
And that was fascinating.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great time.
Pretty awkward. Clearly some sexual tension there, but
Oh, of course. I mean, for me as the audience,
yeah.
I'm just eyeballing Matt Mercer, you know.
Oh, I was looking at Colbert.
I mean, both a good time.
Yeah, I've heard those anecdotal things. I've only had limited experience with it, but I've enjoyed it every time.
Yeah,
And I would definitely not fret away from doing that.
yeah.
I still find it fascinating. You have a whole story written for it. That's really cool.
Yep, I know the story start to finish. I just gotta flesh it out and build the actual maps
Yeah.
and more of the background and characters, etc.
Even easier. Don't build me maps.
I with my intermission campaign, I really liked having those maps. Even it was just like 4 or 5 maps. One of them was really shitty, just hallways. But like, I thought it was very enjoyable to have them.
Yeah, I feel like you might be a little bit like me, which is like the maps and all that stuff is kind of for me, like as a DM.
Yeah,
Like I
mean,
I like doing it.
my
I like
players
having that
really liked it
content.
too, and I thought the maps were kind of lackluster and shitty, but
Yeah.
they really liked
Oh,
having the
players
maps.
love maps.
They liked having the maps and the shadows and stuff.
Look, players love maps, and I understand why. Pass.
Hard pass.
There are tools that I can send you guys. I don't know how good they are, but I don't know how much drawing, editing programs you're comfortable with, like Photoshop or Affinity Photo or anything like
I mean,
that.
I used GIMP to make my avatar, so
I don't know if it would work with GIMP, but there's a map building tool that is just like over 2,000 brushes for whatever those programs are called, the type of program. Like Photoshop.
Photoshop, like
Yeah.
GIMP should be able to read it. GIMP usually is pretty good about like being able to read every kind of file type.
It looks like a really nice, especially for you. You have the tablet.
Yeah.
It looks like a really, really nice way to make maps where like you just have these brushes that are a brick wall.
Yeah,
or,
you just paint on the
Yeah.
path and everything.
I can imagine if you have a tablet or if you are comfortable in those types of programs, it's a phenomenal way of and then you have also the layer systems of proper fucking, because that's my biggest problem with like Dungeon Draft. Dungeon
Yeah.
Draft's great.
it is good. But your layers are limited.
It's
It's a
front
pain in the
or
ass.
back. Those are your there
Well,
are
there's supposed to be
layers. You
3.
just
There's supposed to be 3 layers for each actual layer. So there's supposed to be a front, middle, back. But I can never get into the middle.
the problem is that there are layers, a full layer system. However many items you have is how many layers you have in that category. So let's say it's like ground level 0. If you have 10 items, there are technically 10 layers, but your access to them is via a
move to front or move to
or
back.
move to back button. It's fucking
It is a pain in
miserable.
the
And
ass.
trying to click through things is miserable. It is the best map making program that I have found for TTRPGs. And it is great. And props to the people who made it. But
Now,
it is not great.
now
Just like every industry program, it is a Premiere sucks.
Yeah.
if you were to talk about that map builder, like if you how many party members would you have for the like?
Yeah, all
the-
right. We can move to post show. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening to Take the Damage podcast by Unfortunate Ones. Once again, I am Sav, and you can find any of my links in the description, including the link to my profile on startplaying.games, where I do professionally run TTRPG, primarily just D&D at the moment, until we release any of our stuff someday, maybe, I hope. But you can find me over there if you would like to hop into one of my games that's currently running, or if you would like to request a game. I do take custom requests. I love world building and all of that good stuff. So I would love to hear what you're looking to have run. Thank you very much.
Nix. My YouTube link for now is what's in the description. And then that's it.
I'm Graythorn. I stream games almost every Friday. Right now, I am doing a Delta Green. I am a player in the campaign. I'm not sure how long that's going to be for, and it's eating into my time to prepare for my actual campaigns.
Hell yeah, brother.
Thank you, Harmu. That's it. I'm sure there's links in the description somewhere.
Yeah, and then make sure to like and subscribe. That way, those links in the description, a lot of them won't be broken anymore if we have 500 subscribers. And then it'll open up the ability to open up members pages for our YouTube, and also visit our website and our Patreon. Anything else?
Yeah, if you would like to become a member of our Patreon or our website, you can get extra content there.
No, just visit.
For our pre and post show. Yep. Don't know why you would pitch for people to just visit.
Just visit.
Become a
Just-
member.
Just take a look.
And you can get the extra content, which is the recording before and after our actual podcast, where we talk in a little more freeform. And sometimes it is on some type of TTRPG topic, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes we're just bullshitting as friends, because we are just three unsuccessful TTRPG friends.
the post show is a lot like the severe tangents that we took in
Yeah.
this.
If we go off on tangents and you're like, oh, I like the tangents more than I like the topic, check out the pre and post show on Patreon or our website.
Or worse, you might get a shop talk.
If you like shop talk, check out our pre and post show on Patreon or our website.
So I moved the timeline in this direction. And then I dropped into After Effects.
We still do so much fucking shop. Oh my God.
Hey.
All right.
Do it live.
Thank you for listening. Have a good night.
Thank you guys.
Kisses.
Bye.